I'm an agent here with my home group. So just kind of keep in mind when we're talking, I realize not everybody is in the same market and some of you are in different areas, different states. So just kind of keep in mind that what I'm going to, I know like COVID restrictions might be different with where everybody's at. So I'm just going to speak from where it is as far as, you know, where we're at, which isn't a ton of restrictions. Of course, we do have precautions that we take when we're going out, but I do realize that everybody's going to be a little bit different as far as what area they're covering. When it comes to the presentation today, again, it is geared towards like a newer agent, you know, just kind of giving you guys some ideas of what to do for the, when you first get an appointment to going on the appointment to the post-appointment follow-up. So we're going to kind of just give you tips along the way as far as what we do here when it comes to our listing. So again, I'm an agent here with my home group. I've been in the business for about 16 years. We do work both buyer and seller transactions, so out of the Phoenix area. So it'll give you some information about myself. And if you guys have any questions, I know Kelly will be kind of monitoring the chat. So Kelly, feel free to stop me at any time if you need me to answer any questions. So let me go ahead and get my screen shared with you guys. Okay, can you guys see that okay? You can? Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay, so let me move this over a little bit. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get going. And again, if you guys have any questions along the way, then just let me know. There we go. Okay, so first we want to introduce a couple of the sponsors on our call today. So we'll start with Ryan. Ryan, I know you're muted, but if you want to just kind of give us a quick plug about OneGuard, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, actually, and rather than that, I'd love to just share a quick story. So I had a homeowner, there was a seller, since we're talking listing coverage, there was a seller that had a property that the agent listed with them, and the listing agent ended up putting listing coverage on that property, which is fantastic. If you guys aren't using that, you should be. It's just basically free coverage for your seller while it's listed. It's a layer of protection for you, for the seller, for everybody involved, really. So it's fantastic. But what I sometimes get in a seller's market is, well, the home sells in like 5 days, so there's no point. In this situation, in this story, this scenario, they had already, a buyer had come along, and so they were in the closing process. So even if the home sells in 3 days, you still have typically a 30, sometimes 45-day escrow period, right? So the home was covered during that period. They had something called out for the air conditioner. And so the seller's agent called us, we came out, and actually the seller was representing a absentee seller. So they had already moved out of state. And so when we got out there, we actually found that the seller had pulled the disconnect, which is just a little switch above the, if you think of air conditioning units, there's one outside on the ground typically when we have a split system. And so above that, there's a little gray box, and it has a switch in there that shuts down all the power to the air conditioner. So really all they had done was pulled that switch. So unfortunately in this case, it cost the seller a service fee, but basically just great to have that coverage in place. They were all able to have us come out, take a look at it. But just a tip for the sellers, if you are representing a seller, or the listing agents, if you are representing a seller that's out of town, you might check that switch. Oftentimes they just pull that. So just an experience I had recently that I wanted to share with you guys. Hope that's helpful.
Thank you. Perfect. And yes, we do order, as I'm sure you know, seller coverage with OneGuard on every single listing that we do. So that is something that is part of our listing process for sure. So Emily, if you'd want to say something about your company as well.
Yeah, definitely. Hey guys, Emily here with Muscular Movingman, and I just want to say thank you for letting us be a part of this presentation and webinar. I'm really excited to see what I can get out of it as well, so I can learn more about your industry. Just want to say we are here for you guys when things get crazy, because from what I'm hearing is things are getting crazy out there, and we can be an asset to your open house. So this is something we've been doing, is we've been sponsoring open houses. I can bring some Perrier or some cookies from Panera that'll help set the mood, or I don't know, maybe we can bring some wine, and that'll help people get into the mood for buying. But I'll be posting my information in the chat if anybody wants to reach out to me. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And just to give you some background information on myself, again, I run the Garcia group here in the West Valley section of Phoenix. It just gives you some background information as far as our number of reviews. Our customer experience is really important to us. So just kind of gives you some background information about that. So I'm going to be talking a lot about customer service and a lot of that with you guys, so that way you guys can hopefully, pick up a couple of things here or there and see what works for you guys. So we'll go ahead and move forward. So what we're going to be talking about today is going to be everything from the pre-appointment to the appointment itself to the post follow-up process that we utilize here at the Garcia group. So it's really important when you're dealing with like the pre-appointment process that you're working from our whole goal when it comes to the pre-appointment process is to just be solution ready. We want to make sure that if there are any issues that a seller's having, that we're trying to discover those during that initial call and that initial contact, so that we can then provide the solutions at the listing appointment. Appointment is, of course, to discover their needs and see what it is that they need help with. If there's anything, of course, we know they want to sell their home, but outside of that, what additional items can we discover that we know that we can obviously address for them. And then, of course, the post follow-up, if you do not get the listing agreement signed, then what can you do to nurture that relationship? So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. And just to kind of give you some background, like I said, with my team, we're a team of 16 sales agents with 9 admin. The admin is everything from operations manager to inside sales team to a marketing department to closing department. So that makes up the admin section. So again, it's 9 employees and then 16 sales agents that are on our team. Okay. Okay. So when it comes to the pre-appointment, the whole process, what we see the pre-appointment process being is to do everything we can to ease the stress, because moving, of course, is a stressful time in somebody's life. And then, of course, also making sure that we're doing what we can to create the excitement for that client, to get them motivated about the move and where they're going. Are they moving out of state for a new job? Are they moving on to a bigger home? Whatever it is, we want to make sure that we do what we can to create that excitement, but then at the same time, make it as stress-free as possible for our clients. So one of the first things we do when we get that call, and again, how we get our listing leads can be everything from a referral from a past client. Maybe they live in the neighborhood and they saw our sign go up and they saw, that it went under contract quickly. It could be from that. It could be from, we get a lot of referrals from out-of-state agents that are needing, have clients that are needing assistance here in the Phoenix market. So however we get the appointment, it all starts with, for the most part, a phone call. So that initial phone call, of course, we're going to go over some of the questions that we ask on that initial call. Once we book that appointment, one of the first things we do, if we have time, and again, COVID has put a wrench into some of this for some people in their areas, but one of the first things we do is we drop off a few moving boxes. So I always have little cards. In fact, I'm going to grab some from my desk here. We always have like little thank you cards that we have at our disposal. So we write up a quick handwritten note that just says, thank you so much for, agreeing to, meet with me about the sale of your home. We have our appointment set for Saturday at 3 o'clock. Here's your first few moving boxes are on me. So the first thing we're going to do is send off a thank you card and drop off some moving boxes at their front door as the first experience that they're going to have with us after that initial phone call is going to be doing that. Then again, we call ahead to confirm the appointment, and we ask some pre-listing questions. And I will go over our list of pre-listing questions with you as well. But we always call ahead to confirm. And I know that there's some times where, actually I'm gonna unshare my screen here for a second. I know I can only see a few of you, but the ones that I can see that do have your camera on, or maybe you can chat in the box. How many of you are ever hesitant to call and confirm the listing appointment because you're afraid they're going to cancel, or it gives them an excuse to cancel? Does anybody ever worry about that? No hands? Okay, you guys don't worry about that. Okay, perfect. So when it comes to confirming the appointment, you always want to call and confirm the appointment just to make sure that everybody is on the same page as far as when and where that appointment is scheduled, and get all the details. And of course, ask some additional questions, which we're going to go over. And yes, Elizabeth, it's a good chance to discuss any questions they might have ahead of time. Depends on the seller. Okay, got it. Okay, so yeah, so I'm going to go over our pre-listing questions with you on the next slide so that we can kind of go over. But before I show you what we ask, what do you think, let's see, Elizabeth, what do you think is a good question that you want to ask the seller when it comes time to like just doing that pre-appointment call? And Sylvie, maybe you too. I see you
Why
guys.
do you want to sell your home?
Why do they, yes, the motivation,
Your
right?
motivation.
Exactly. Yep. So motivation is definitely one of the questions that we're asking. So just curious if you guys have a list of questions that you guys like to, or content you like to ask of them first. Another thing that we're going to do once we call and confirm and set the appointment, of course we have our first call, discovery. We then have our second call, which is calling to confirm the appointment. And then we're also going to send them an email with comparables. And I'll show you a list. One of my slides shows you what we send. But you want to be able to send comps. You want to know what the Zestimate is, and you want to send a link to like reviews or something like that. So I want to be able to see a couple of you guys too. So when it comes time to, if anybody can guess, like when it comes, we want to send a Zillow, we want to know what this estimate is. Anybody here have a guess as to why we want to know what that estimate says? Nobody? Okay, so we want to send a Zestimate because we want to know this estimate because that's what they're looking at. I'm not looking at this estimate because that's what I think the house is worth. I'm looking at this estimate because I want to know what they think their home is worth, because that's going to let me know ahead of time if what price I come up with is going to be either higher than what they're expecting, or is it going to be a disappointment with what my recommendation is going to be, depending on what this estimate says. So one of the first things we print out for ourselves is going to be, like, we're getting all our paperwork together, and I still use paperwork. We do send things ahead of time, and I'll answer your question, Elizabeth, I'll answer that too. But I want to know this estimate because I want to know what they are looking at, because no matter whether we like Zillow or not, that is what the consumers are looking for, and that's what they're basing the value, what they think the value of their home is at. So I send that information ahead of time. I used to not send comps. I used to not do that. And sometimes I would hear my I guess like my objection, I guess, when I used to not send comps would be, well, what if I send them the comps ahead of time and then they don't like the price of the comps that they're seeing? Then they're going to want to cancel the appointment. That's what I used to think. And I can tell you, since I have been sending the comp, I have never had one person cancel the appointment ahead of time. It's preparing them, and it really cuts down on the amount of time that you spend at the appointment itself. The client is already prepared. They already have an idea of what you're going to discuss as far as pricing goes. I like them to see the reviews ahead of time so they can see what past clients have to say about working with us. I want to be able to send them some of our marketing pieces so they have an idea of what to expect. And it really does cut down on the amount of time that you spend at the appointment. Okay. Okay, yes, for any recent updates. Yes, we're going to go over what I ask as well, for sure. Okay, so again, we're going to email comps. We're going to know what this estimate is. We're going to send them a link to our reviews. And again, I have a list that I'll show you with a slide of what we ask. One of the other things you want to also make sure you pull, I don't necessarily send this to them in the link with the comparables, but I want to know what the information is as well. So even though I'm sending active, under contract, and recent solds, I'm also pulling for myself the canceled and the expireds. The reason I'm pulling canceled and expireds is because I want to know the price that other sellers have already tested the market at. So let's say it's a $350,000 home, and you have sellers who have tested the market at 360, 375, 380, and they've canceled or they've expired. And then you have a seller who's like, well, I'd like to try 375. Well, let me go ahead and pull out that information for you so I can show you your neighbors that have already tested that price range. Now let me know what you think about, these comparables here. So it kind of diffuses that objection of them wanting to list at a higher price. If it truly is like a reach, then, and if you can see that sellers have already tested that market recently, then it just makes that a little bit easier, okay? Okay, so some of the pre-appointment questions we want to know. We want to know why they want to sell, which is their motivation. We want to know, we always ask what their ideal selling price is. And this is also a question that I think a lot of agents are hesitant to ask, like, what is it that you want to, what's your ideal sales price? Because they automatically think that the seller is going to say, well, that's why I'm hiring you. That's why I'm having you come out here. This is why, this is what I thought you were coming out to tell me. You really don't get that. As much as you think that that would be something a seller says, they will tell you. If you ask them the question, they'll tell you. So that way you have a good idea of what you're walking into before you even, step foot in the front door. So we want to know what their ideal sales price is. We want to know if they're interviewing agents. And again, another objection that pops into some agents' heads sometimes is, well, I don't want to give them the idea to interview other agents. My thought process behind that is they already know whether they're going to interview or not. So they've already made that decision if they're going to be interviewing. So you're not putting anything into their head that they aren't already thinking of themselves, if that is something in fact that they're going to be doing. But you want to know what you're walking into. Okay, so I want to know if they're interviewing other agents, what the condition of the home is. So that's where, have they done any upgrades or improvements? I always kind of pose it as, I want to know the good and the bad. What any updates or upgrades have you done to the home that would add value? And in addition, are there any items that need to be addressed? Anything that need deferred maintenance? Anything that needs to be fixed that maybe for whatever reason you just haven't done that yet? So I want to know the good and the bad. Okay. Also, I want to know their current loan balance. That's another one that I think some agents sometimes are hesitant to ask. But how I ask it is I say, okay, one of the things that's important to sellers is to kind of have an idea of what their net proceeds is going to be, what their walkaway figure is going to be. In order for me to do that, then I do need to know like a general idea, ballpark figure of what you currently owe on the home. So do you have an idea of what that is? And they always tell me. There's never a time where a seller says, no, I don't want to tell you. It just doesn't happen. So if you ask it the right way, I get that information because again, it's important for them. That's what they want to know. What are they going to walk away with at the end of the deal? And you're not going to be able to provide that information unless you know like what their loan balance is. So I do ask that. And again, we're going to reconfirm that appointment. So has anybody here, and again, let's see if I can get somebody to raise their hand. Is there anybody here that has ever heard the acronym LP Mama when it comes to buyers? Yay, Sarah. Okay, I got one person to participate. Okay, I got a few on the chat. Perfect. Okay, so this is the easy way when you're like in a pinch and you're in a car, you're driving, right, whatever it is, and you're pulled over and you're like, okay, what are those questions I'm supposed to ask? So for those that don't know what I'm talking about, LP Mama are like some what I call like talking points that you kind of go over when you're working with a buyer. You want to know, so when you have a buyer on the phone, you want to ask what's their location. That's the L. You want to know the P would be for the price point. What price point are they wanting to buy in? The motivation, like why are they looking to buy? Agent, whether or not they are working with an agent yet. M is the mortgage, which is do they have have they already applied for a mortgage? And then the A is for appointment. Okay, so how you can use that on the seller side, as just if you can memorize this, it'll be really easy for you to remember what questions to ask if you don't have something in front, if you don't have your script in front of you. So location would of course be the address of their home. So you want to know the address of the home that they're wanting to sell. P would be the price, which is what price are they looking to sell the home for. M would be the mortgage, like what's the loan balance, what's their mortgage balance. Let's see, what location, price point, mortgage. A, agents, are they interviewing other agents? That's for the A. The motivation. The other M was motivation. The other M is motivation, why they're wanting to sell. And then A is of course scheduling the listing appointment. So if you ever can't, like on a short, just need something right away, those are your talking points. I don't necessarily ask in that order, but that's going to give you an idea of what some of the questions that you can ask the seller. Okay. Okay, so again, just a quick list. These are kind of the questions that we're asking ahead of time prior to their appointment. So that way we're getting some information ahead of time. Now, again, I know as agents, sometimes we're afraid to ask certain questions because we automatically have our own mindset against certain questions. I mean, it's the same thing with like a buyer broker agreement. We don't want to we don't want to ask for a buyer broker agreement because it makes sometimes us uncomfortable. when the buyer has no problem, you know, if we were just asked the question. So don't be afraid to ask the questions, especially if you ask them and explain to them, you know, why it is that you're, you know, asking certain questions. We really don't get a lot of pushback when it comes to, you know, getting the information that we need in order to help them. So if you just try it, then I'm telling you, it will be a lot easier. Same thing with sending comps ahead of time. Don't be afraid to send those comps ahead of time, because it's going to make the appointment process a lot faster and a lot easier for both you and the seller. So don't be afraid to, you know, maybe do some things that you might be uncomfortable with, but that the seller is going to be totally fine with. Okay, so we also send a welcome email. So the email that we're going to send is going to be a video. We have it templated, so if you are somebody that utilizes like Boomtown, or I mean, you can even use Gmail and save them as a canned email. But we send the comps, we send a link to our review page. If you maybe want to send social media links, maybe there's, you know, a social, you know, link that you want to send to them, a sample walkthrough video that you do, a sample, you know, piece of sample marketing, link to sample marketing pieces, maybe like a 3D tour. Think of the items that you already provide for listings that you can save and then use that to showcase, like, you know, to the next seller. So for example, let's say you don't have anything yet, but you know that you have a certain process that you always follow. Maybe the next listing that you take, you go all out and you do everything that you can for it. You do a YouTube walkthrough video, you do a 3D video, you do a Matterport, you do drone photos, whatever it is that you want to showcase as far as like photography or video or, you know, print materials, whatever it is. Make that next listing, that one listing that you're just going to do everything for, and then that's what you use for all of the future appointments to showcase to your future clients that you're going to use. Okay, so just make at least one. If you're not already doing that, make the next listing that listing that you provide all that marketing material for, and that's going to be your samples. Okay, so this is kind of gives you a general idea of what we send. When I send the video, I have a templated email that I use, and all it says is something like, hi Kelly, this is Becky Garcia with the Garcia Group at my home group. I'm really looking forward to meeting you and going over the sale of your home and our marketing process. I've attached a few links below to things like a sample of my photography. You're also going to find a sample of 3D walkthrough tour. You're going to also see a list of the comparables, so you can kind of be prepared prior to our appointment. Then again, there's just some other couple things there that you feel free to take a look and get some, that way you can kind of do some research before we meet. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, the details and time of our appointment are just below this video. Look forward to meeting you. Take care. And I just send a quick video like that. I don't say their name. It's just, it can be used over and over and over again. So I'm going to send the video, all of our links, along with a link to, day and time of the appointment. Okay. Okay, and then again, this is just a sample walk. Who do you use for the 3D tour? We upload all of ours to Zillow. We use we have a Ricoh 360 camera, and we use that. We utilize that because it's free. You don't have to pay anything. So I'm cheap, so anything I can do for free, I want to do for free. So if you just have the Ricoh 360 camera, you can upload it on Zillow, and there's no charge to do that. So that's where we do all of ours. Okay, I think the camera might be around 300, 350. I've had the camera for probably about a year and a half. So it's definitely, worth it, made its money back. So who do you use? What is the camera? Can you do it? Can you, right? Okay, yes, I can do that. Oops, let's see if I can. Well, I might have to later. But this is going to be, sorry about that. I'll write it later in the comments here. This is going to be a sample of one of the links that we'll send. It's just going to give them a sample walkthrough video. I'll just play it here for you. And this is, again, all it's doing is showcasing what like a sample video is going to look like that we're going to duplicate for them. Okay. And that one just goes through the whole, showcasing of the home. So we do our own 3D videos, the 3D walkthrough videos we do on our own, but as far as like that video I just showed you, we hire a photographer. So our professional photographer will go in, they will take all the photos, and then they also do a walkthrough video. So they do those two, and then we do the 3D on our own, and then we upload the 3D on our own. Okay. Maybe you're going to do floor plan. A lot of people are into floor plans right now too. I mean, whatever it is that you're going to provide, make sure you give all that information when you're meeting with the seller, so that way they have an idea of what they can expect when it comes to the marketing of their home. Okay. Okay, so when it comes to materials, seller's guide. Now again, if you have a title company, again, depending on what state you're in and what area and who your rep is, but if you work with the title company, and you don't already have any kind of a seller guide or any kind of presentation, they can help put something together for you, whether it's your title company or maybe you have a marketing person that you can hire. I mean, there's all kinds of services like on Fiverr and things like that that you can, you know, hire somebody pretty inexpensively to put something together. But I definitely encourage you to have some sort of presentation together. Now, it doesn't mean you use the presentation every single time, but you want to make sure that you're you know, have something prepared. So again, title companies kind of help you with putting together a custom seller guide for you. You always want to make sure you take a listing agreement with you. The last thing you want to do is show up to an appointment, have a seller who's like ready to sign, and you don't have anything there for them to sign. Whether you do this electronically or you do it on paper, it's not going to matter, but just make sure you have a listing agreement ready to go. Okay. Also about the home fact sheet, we're actually transitioning this to be Google form instead of just paper. So the fact sheet is going to ask them questions like, what's their average utility costs? Is there solar on the home? And then we're going to ask for a copy of their solar agreement. We're going to ask what kind of improvements that they've done on the home, any updates. This is like a fact sheet that they're giving us specific to the property. We want to have all that information so that when it comes time to list and a buyer's agent calls and says, I want to, you know, I want information on what the average, you know, especially in Arizona, people always want to know what the utility bills are in the summer. We already have that information. We're not having to go and, you know, backtrack it to the seller at that point. So we always will include a fact sheet. Seller questionnaire is going to be where we're asking them questions about the home and the neighborhood, like what's their favorite, what are the three favorite things in the neighborhood? What are their three favorite things what are the three top favorite things they love about their home? Because that's going to help us with the write-up when it comes time to like writing, you know, the description in the MLS or certain things to highlight. That's going to give us that material to highlight all that information. So we definitely want to make sure that we're asking about the home and we're asking about having them fill out the questionnaire, which is just telling us their favorite things about the home, the neighborhood, and anything like that. Okay, also a listing playbook. This is where, in fact, I wrote down everything. We're redoing a lot of our material right now. And that's another thing. I want to ask everybody in the chat, or if you're, you know, whether you're on video or not, because I can't only see a few of you, but in chat, how many of you have some sort of like written presentation that you're providing at the listing appointment? Okay, so a lot of you do already. Perfect. Okay, so how many of you, those that answered or those that didn't, whether it's written or like Connie says she uses digital, so whether you use digital or paper, it doesn't matter, but whatever you're using, how many of you are using the same material that maybe it's the same presentation that you use, say, in January? Okay, so Sylvie says yes, same. Anybody else? Okay, so if you are still using the same material that you used last year or the beginning of this year, you need to change it because we're in a completely different market. There's completely different conversations that need to be had with the seller. So if your listing presentation has not been updated in the past few months, you definitely want to make sure that you're addressing that, because we need to be talking to sellers about what it's like to sell a home in today's market. They want to know if they're going to be safe. They want to know what precautions are being taken. They want to know what you as their listing agent is going to do in order to safeguard, you know, their home. So, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I have somebody in escrow right now that told me that got a call, you know, earlier this week from an agent that said, hey, I'm just letting you know, the buyer of your home just tested positive for COVID and we have a duty to let everybody know. That's like a real thing that's happening right now. So your sellers are going to want to know how all of this is being addressed. Not only from who's coming in to see their home when they're making an offer, how is the inspection process working? How is the appraisal process working? There's a lot that's changed in the past couple of months. And if you haven't updated your listing presentation, you definitely want to make sure you're doing that. Whether you have a formal presentation or it's just, you know, what you're saying to them, you just want to make sure that you're addressing that. And so if you haven't been changing anything, you definitely want to start doing that now. Now, as far as things that are in the listing presentation, we want to make sure ours covers the selling process. So again, explaining that not only the traditional selling process, but what's that virtual selling process look like now? Are you, what precautions? So like one thing we talk about when we're at a listing appointment is we're going to be talking about like the safety precautions that we're doing. Like we make sure we have, you know, PPE kit for every seller. That's going to include sanitizer, it's going to include gloves, it's going to include masks, it's going to include booties, whatever they want, we're going to, you know, we provide it to them. We provide, so I can't tell you when we have that conversation, the immediate like sigh of relief that they have, knowing that, you know, we have that covered. We're going to be giving them tips on what to leave open and how to, you know, show the home and how to show it when it's occupied and you have people coming through. So we do to make sure we talk about that. So we want to make sure we're explaining the selling process. Your marketing proposal should be included in that playbook. So that's going to be any print marketing, online, you know, advertising, anything at all, that whatever you're going to be doing, and list everything that you do. Make sure that you have that there for them to see. Doesn't necessarily mean you go line by line and talk about everything, but you want to make sure that you have everything there. So you want to make sure, again, it covers the selling process, marketing proposal. Again, you address the safe selling process, and then background information on yourself. I would say anything that you're talking about yourself, whether it's your own stats, your reviews, and again, if you're a new agent, you can use the information from your brokerage, right? So like I know at my home group, they provide a ton of information, a ton of material that you can use in a presentation like this that talks about the stats of the brokerage. So if you're a new agent, you know, lean on the experience of your brokerage that your brokerage has. So whatever it is, you know, make sure whatever you're including like that, all that should go at the end of the presentation. That shouldn't be in the beginning. So when you're putting something together, make sure that when you're talking about you, it's towards the end of the presentation. So, but that's our process. Ours is the selling, the marketing proposal, and then the background information is going to be towards the end. Ours is very heavy marketing material within our presentation, within our listing playbook. Okay. Okay. Okay, so the actual appointment. And if anybody has any questions, again, feel free to put it in the chat and let me know. Okay, so when you're going on the appointment, it's going to be, the purpose of the appointment is, of course, to build the rapport, uncover the needs of the seller, and then, of course, deliver the solutions that they need in order to make this an easy process for them. So some of the process that we go through when it comes to the appointment, everybody, should the process be with this thing? Okay, one question. Should the product, again, if you can go in the chat, if you're going, for those that are experienced, have done listing appointments for a while, is your process always the same for every single client that you're going with? So every single appointment, do you use the exact same, you know, process? You talk about the same things, you follow the same, you know, no. Okay. Perfect. Yes. No, it shouldn't be. It should not be the same for every single person. So it's not kind of how now there are some things that I do all the time the same way. So I'll kind of go over that, but you need to be able to adjust. So it doesn't mean just because I, you know, have certain things that I want to go over with them, it doesn't mean I have it. And some things I never even pull out because there's no reason for me to do it. If I know that, you know, we're already leaning towards like, we're going to hire you and this is how it's going to go, I don't like bombard them with information that they haven't asked for, because you could turn somebody away very quickly if you're going over something and you're breaking that rapport. So when it comes to the appointment, I do like to, of course, like I said, we've done everything prior to, we've done asked them certain questions, we've had our phone call, we've confirmed the appointment, they've gotten my email, They know what we're going to be covering. They know what time I'm going to show up. I show up at the appointment, and I'd say probably the majority of agents, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to want to tour the home, right? Okay, let's go ahead and let's tour the home, show me everything. And then we sit down and then we talk about, the selling process and how it's all going to work. With me, I'm a pattern interrupt kind of person, so I try to do things a little bit different. So when I go in, the first thing I want to do is sit down. I want to sit down. I want to talk to them. I want to find out what they're about. I want to get face to face with them. I want to build that rapport, and then we'll eventually get to touring the home. But I like to sit down and talk to them first. So we sit down. Some of the things I want to know, I'm going to ask them, and I kind of put some things in here. What's important to them? I always ask, what is it going to be important for you? What are you looking for in an agent? Tell me what's important to you. So I want to know, and you'll get things like, well, we sold before, and our agent never communicated with us on what this was or how this was working, or it was confused, it didn't close on time, and we were kind of left in the dark about how this happened. They'll have a story. If they're not a first-time seller, they will have a story for you. If it's a brand new seller, first-time seller, they're going to let you know, I know nothing about this process. I'm going to need my hand held through the entire process. So I like to know what's important to them, because then I'm going to gear obviously my conversation towards what they need to hear and how it is that I'm going to help with the concerns, that how I'm going to help address the concerns that they have. So I want to know that. It's important for you to know your stats. And when I say stats, I mean both market and of course your team stats. You will have some sellers like, how many houses have you sold in the past year? How many, how many houses are on the market right now? I mean, they'll ask you very specific questions. Also, when I talk about, it's all about the net. That's, the walkaway figure that we talk about. And then I also want to know who's the decision maker. So if it's, a married couple, then obviously I want to know who the decision maker is in that situation. But these are all ways, when I'm sitting down with somebody and we're going over a lot of this, some of these things automatically start coming to the table. So for example, if the wife says, I will always take a drink. If somebody says, can I get you something? Do you want something to drink? Even though I just drank a ton of water in my car, I'm going to say yes. I will always say yes. If they get up, like let's say you sit down and the husband says, or the wife says, oh, would you like something to drink? And I say, yes, I'd love some water. That would be great. And she looks at the husband and the husband gets up to get the drink. Who's the decision maker in that situation? Let's see if let's see what you guys put some answers in. Exactly, Marisol, the wife, the decision maker right there. So yeah, all the guys just got to give that look, and right then and there who that decision maker is in that situation. But so yeah, so I always take a drink if they offer a drink. Again, I'm asking certain questions from them. What is it that's important to them? Their time frame, why, the mode. I'm going back over. Like, I know we talked on the phone, you said that you were selling because you're going to be relocating to Kansas. So why don't you tell me more about that? What's going on? Do you have family there? What kind of job are, I'm asking, that's when I'm sitting down and really getting into a lot of those questions that they have. So we're sitting down, we're building rapport, we're talking about, why they want to move and everything, as far as what's involved, what do they know about the selling process, how long do they think it takes. We go over all of their possible concerns that they can have. And I can tell you, when I build that conversation, it really never comes about. It's very rare that you have somebody who's like, I just want to know how much you're going to charge. Like, it just doesn't happen. They go into detail about what they need your help with. That also, when you're having those conversations first, it makes it very easy to figure out their personality style. So when it comes time to going over the numbers, which, at the end is going to be what we talk about at the end, it makes it easy for you to kind of transition how that conversation should be. So if you have somebody who's very analytical, they're going to tell you about anything and everything that they've possibly done in that house, and they're going to talk to you about all the details and the numbers and how much they spent on this and how old this is and what ton is on the air conditioning unit. They're going to give you all those details, and okay, that's an analytical person. So I'm not going to be able to just like flow through, and like, here you go, sign the papers. You're going to have to be very detail oriented. If you have somebody that talks about like how it makes them feel and, things like, if you're very sentimental, then, okay, this is somebody that needs to build, build more of a relationship based rather than they're not, the numbers is going to be the last thing they want to know about. So they're going to be somebody who loves talking about the marketing material. So I'm going to go over all the marketing material with them that I can. We're going to spend spend a lot more time on that than we are going to be like the numbers at the end. So that will just kind of give you hints as to the personality style of them and what you're going to be wanting to look for. So, so we kind of go over that. We sit down. Once we sit down, we talk about everything. We go over the marketing, and then we go over kind of the marketing proposal, all of that. Okay, now show me your home. Let me see. So then we kind of go through. And as they're going through and showing me the home, I'm also looking through and thinking, okay, how can I help them any more than I already am? So for example, maybe it's a single person and I see a lot of like little handyman deferred maintenance type of things that need to be done, that I would suggest be done, but I know that they work really long hours because we've already talked about it and they've told me all of that. Then it's really easy for me to say, you know what, I have a handyman that I can have come in here prior to like listing the home, and we can go ahead and get all this taken care of for you so you don't have to worry about it. That's just one less thing that they're going to have on their plate. So think kind of when you're walking around looking at the home, what are the little things that you can identify or that you can look for that you might be able to help them with before because they might not even think to ask you about it. In their head, they're like, oh my God, how am I going to get this house ready? I got to clean, I got to do this, and I don't even know how to decorate, and I'm not sure, can you have a stager come in and help them? Can you have a handyman come in and help them? Can you have a landscaper come in and help them? What can you solve for them that they are thinking about, but they maybe don't even think that you're going to be able to address for them? So you're going to kind of want to go through, as you're going through the home, kind of bring up some things like that just might, give them a reason to want to hire you because you're just making it that much easier for them. Okay. So kind of the things I wrote down as far as, and you go on the appointment. We always sit first, then we tour. As far as, like I said, determining who the decision maker is, determining the flow of the meeting based on personality, style of the seller. And then ours is kind of, like I said, when we sit down, we talk about the marketing, we talk about the safe selling process, we tour the home, then we go over the comps. So I've already sent them the comps in the beginning. So the first thing I'm asking is, did you get a chance to review the comparables that I sent to you? And then they're going to say either yes or no. So if they say yes, okay, then it's a very quick, easy process to go into what recommendation I'm going to give versus like compared to what, I sent them on the in the initial email. And sometimes they'll say no. Sometimes they'll say, no, actually, I didn't get a chance to look through it. So then again, you still want to make sure that you have all that information with you, whether it's digital or on paper, whatever works for you. And you're going to want to go through, obviously, the comparables with them and then kind of give them, a range. Now, I always give a range. I never say you should list for $375,000. Never. I never do that. I always give a range. So, and then I kind of let them make the decision from there as far as what they're going to list it for. And when I have on here, it's all about the net. It almost never comes up how much I'm charging because all they care about is that bottom line. So if we look around and we're like, okay, we're going to list this house for, we want to list it for $375,000. Okay, no problem. I get my, calculator out and on my phone, figure out like the numbers and everything. I do the numbers for them. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be your walkaway figure. Is this what you had in mind? And it's like, oh, that's perfect. That's more than what I thought it was going to be, or whatever they tell you. Then you're like, okay, when they're asking about commission, because I think that's also too a lot of fear behind an agent is, and again, whatever you charge, obviously commission isn't set, so whatever you charge is what you charge. It's never questioned on me what I charge because all they care about is the net. That's all they truly care about is that net figure. I do not do net proceeds sheet at that time. I send them a net proceeds sheet after they've signed everything, after everything's done, I've already left, then I'm getting an estimated net proceeds sheet for them the next day, and then I'm sending that over to them. So, and of course, I give them the figure when I'm with them, but I give them a printout, like I email it to them afterwards, okay? Because then again, it never really comes up as far as what we're charging, okay? So that's kind of the process for us. It's sit down, talk, tour, marketing, what we're going to do for them, what they're going to be able to sell it for, and hopefully get everything signed at the end of the appointment. I know that some agents prefer to do 2 appointments. I always prefer to just do 1 appointment and get it signed and get moving towards, the next, the next process. So I know that when it comes time to, another question that sometimes comes up is, do you want to be the first agent? Do you want to be the last agent? What do you guys prefer? If I can get a couple of answers, I would really appreciate it. Do you prefer to be the first agent, or do you prefer to be like the last agent if you know that they're interviewing? First, second, first. Me too. I prefer to be the first agent. So I want to go in and I want to be the first agent that goes in there and goes on the appointment. That's how I'm the same way. But yeah, I always prefer to be the first, because if I can get them to agree, let's move forward, let's get everything going, then, you know, we can just get everything moving forward. They cancel the other appointments and, you know, we get ready to rolling. So I prefer to be first too. Okay, let's say for some reason you're not able to get anything signed. Whether you get signed or not, you always want to make sure you send them a thank you after the appointment. So the first thing I do when I get back, if it's early enough in the day, I'm going to send them a quick video that's just going to say something like, Kelly, it's Becky Garcia. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today. I know that you asked for me to provide you X, Y, and Z. I've already sent in that request. As soon as I get that back, then I will be in touch. But in the meantime, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll just send a quick thank you video. And when I say on here, always do what you say you're going to do. If maybe they asked you to find out, you know, if they have a CFD balance and, you know, something like that, whatever they're asking, always make sure you provide them what you tell them you're going to provide them. Maybe they wanted to see the net sheet before. They wanted to, especially if it's an analytical person, they're going to want to see that. Maybe you told them that you would send that to them, and that's the follow-up. But you always want to make sure that you do what you say you're going to do. If for some reason, let's say they're not ready to sell right then and there, but maybe it's going to be 6 months down the road that they're not able to sell, they decided, you know what, we need to wait, we're going to wait 6 months, make sure you have them on some sort of follow-up plan. So it's really important to have some sort of CRM or lead management system where you are, you know, you have all that follow-up, consistent follow-up going out to them. So follow-up can be anything from, hey, here's this listing that just listed in your neighborhood. I want to make sure that you're, you know, kept up to date on what's going on in the market. Maybe you're sending them, you know, maybe there's something that's changed in the housing market in your area and you want to make sure you're sending that to them. You just want to make sure that you're consistently staying in touch with them. So make sure you have some way of putting them on some sort of follow-up plan, okay? But most importantly, if you tell them you're going to do something for them, you want to make sure you do it for them. Are you just recording your short videos on Loom or cell phone? I use BombBomb, which is what we record the video on, but then we use Boomtown, which is like our lead management system. So I send the email from Boomtown. I always want to say them backwards, but I send the email I've recorded it in BombBomb. It's automatically imported into like my Boomtown account. So all I have to do is pull my template and send that video out. Okay. Now, if for some reason it's a custom video for them, like especially if it's a post follow-up, it's almost always not going to be a template. It's going to be a custom. I just go into Boomtown and I record the video and I send the email off that way. Okay. B-O-M-B is the name. Yeah, there you go, Selby. Thank you. Okay. So just some general overall advice. When it comes to real estate, I put a few things down here. We definitely have to be likable, right? Like if people have to know, like, and trust you, right? When it comes to who they're going to do business with, you're never going to get to the trust factor if they can't like you. So you got to be likable, especially in this industry. Like you just have to be, you know, you just got to do it. So you got to figure out a way to get comfortable. If I had and people laugh at me all the time because I always say, if I had my way, I would never leave my office to have to do real estate. Unfortunately, we're not able to do that. We got to go out and meet people. I'm more of an introvert, if anything. But, you know, I like to just keep to myself, believe it or not, but you got to force yourself. So you got to be likable. You got to know your inventory. It's so important for you to know your inventory. If you are not, getting hot sheets every day or getting, you know, being educated on the market, you got to make sure you're doing that. When I say there's no days off, what I mean, one of the first things my team does at the end of every year to, you know, plan for the next year is the first thing they have to do is plan their days off. What are going to be your days off during the week? And we go through every month. January, what days off are you going to take off in January? Are there any birthdays, anniversaries, holidays that you want to take off? We do the same thing for every single month. So when I say there's no days off, I'm talking no additional days off into what you're already taking off. So let's say your days off are Sunday and Monday, and today's Thursday, and tomorrow you have no appointments. That does not mean that you get a day off. Like, you need to be doing something. There's always something to do in real estate. So is there, you know, hot sheets that you can be looking at? Again, COVID and that kind of thing, obviously there's only so much you can do and go out. You don't want to be putting yourself or others at risk. But are there, maybe you're not in a, hot zone, and it's okay for you to go into new home builds and get an idea of what their inventory is, or, go out and preview a vacant home, that's in your, immediate area. If you're somewhere where you can't really be going out, then maybe you're calling the new builds and finding out what are the options, what's the inventory, what are the spec homes. You want to kind of be asking, that's how you're going to know the inventory. It's so helpful if you know that, and then somebody calls you and they say, oh, I'm looking for, X, Y, and Z, and that you just found out about this property, you saw it on the hot sheet that morning. It's going to be so much easier for you to become that area expert if you consistently study your inventory. Never leave your clients guessing about what's next. I'm really big on not leaving my clients in the dark. So again, I'm big on doing videos. So have something, let them know what the next step is going to be. Like we just had somebody get past the inspection period. So the next thing I did once we got past the inspection period was, okay, next is going to be the appraisal process. This is how it happens. This is what you can expect. This is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be, they've ordered the appraisal. As soon as it comes in, they'll call, they'll schedule. I'll let you know when that's going to be. I just let them know what they can expect. Do they need to be home? Do they not need to be home? Is the appraiser going to come into the house or not come into the house? Because we've had some drive-by appraisals only because of COVID. So you want to be explaining to them and not leaving them in the dark about what's next. So if you have a way of creating like a video series that you can, or an email series, whatever you want to do, then you can do something like that. Just make sure you have something for every single step that you can send them prior to that time coming up. Again, do what you say you're going to do. Eat the frog. That's really big with me, is making sure you're handling those difficult tasks early. You had a buyer that canceled. Don't wait until the end of the day to call your client and let him know that they canceled. Make that call as soon as you know about it, because it's not going to get any easier. If anything, it gets worse when you delay the bad news that you have to deliver. So when I say don't trip over dollars to pick up the pennies, especially in this industry, it's very easy to get sucked into the newest, latest, greatest, shiny, object that's out there that we're consistently being, put in front of us, buy this, buy that. Your database is free at this point. If they're in your database and you know them and they already know, like, and trust you, really nurture that database and take care of those, because this thing over here that's costing you all this extra money, if you really just put in the sweat equity into your own database, then it would be so much easier. It would save you so much money if you just consistently work your database. I put on here, answer your damn phone, especially if you're a new agent, because that's always a complaint, right? We never answer our phones. So just make sure that you consistently answer your phone. And of course, last but not least, have fun, because this is a very crazy industry that we're in, and it's a crazy, career that we've chosen, but you gotta figure out what it is that you like, find your niche, and, stick with it. And, whether that's listings, whether that's buyers, whether it's relocation, whatever it is, like, find what it is that you like to do and just become the expert at that. And, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Real estate is a very rewarding career if you work it the right way. So any questions that you guys might have? I wasn't sure if I missed anything on I tried to keep up with the chat as much as I could, but sometimes it's hard. Thanks, Bobby. So what I would tell you guys, if you guys don't already have any sort of formal presentation, marketing pieces, get with, whoever helps you with marketing, whether that's a loan officer, whether that's title, whether that's your brokerage, whoever it is, make sure that you're getting with somebody and helping put some things together, so that way you can have a really strong presentation. Even if you've never taken a listing, you don't know when the next time you're going to be able to take a listing, be prepared. Be prepared. It's never going to hurt you to be prepared. Okay. Written, Elizabeth, I can't, it says great information. I'd love to see your written, is it say written guide? I can't quite, let me move this over. Oh, there we go. See some examples? Yeah, last time when I did the buyer class, I sent Kelly some sample pieces afterwards, so we could do the same thing. That's not a problem.
Hi, I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
Listening and working.
Okay.
And yes, I will follow up with everybody with whatever you can give me.
Okay, will do. If you guys have any questions afterwards, feel free to find us on Facebook. Garcia Group is our Instagram. Our Instagram name, again, it's just Garcia Group, or Facebook. I think we're just the Garcia Group on Facebook. So feel free to message us if you guys have any questions or need any additional information, okay?
Thanks, Becky.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.